Steven,
Hi, how you
how
doing?
are you?
Just position this because I'm a bit in an unusual place. I'm in my dining room at the moment, so hopefully the family don't come in and forget what I'm up to.
We like to keep it interesting. I think we change backgrounds a lot. I'm also in a
Yeah,
different background, so
we actually need to get a decent fireside. How about one in actually at a fireside in a it sounds
I
a bit
like
weird. I might
that.
go to a log cabin, Todd, but I'm not actually don't really fancy that with you. It's
I I like we
it's the
could
big
get some
place.
some sort of fireplace going. I like that. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
that'd
not a
be great.
cabin, but something.
But if we
We
if we ever go back to Zoom again, we'll get one of those backgrounds where they look
There
like
you go,
maybe.
the virtual background. Yeah, yeah. So what's funny though is, what we talked about last week is this is a different setup for our live, and we arrived here because of a constraint last week.
Yeah,
Typically on live, I would join via Zoom, you join, and then we would go into the live. It didn't work because of various technical problems I had last week. And so we had to just wing it and figure it out, right? We're gonna take imperfect action as we should and just get it
yeah,
done. And so we went live directly, and it ended up being our best, one of our most engaging lives yet, with everybody jumping in on the comments. And so we decided to do that again. And so really it came to this topic of today of how do we really like embrace constraints and turn it into something that is helpful, and rather than a problem that we can't get past.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but there are a few constraints that turn up in life.
I've
I
noticed
should,
one or two.
like, yeah, I should be
Yeah.
where you are. Actually, I should be, in Nashville.
Yeah. There's a constraint.
Here's a
Um,
constraint. Yeah,
there's a constraint, not being able to travel. What's
yeah.
your way of embracing that? Are you're going to be tuning in?
Oh yeah, I'll be tuning in, and my first reaction to it is, oh God, that sucks.
Totally. Yeah. The first thought is like just utter frustration, and
Yeah,
yeah, which is
but
totally natural.
well, actually, I did actually think if I listen to some mindset gurus that you should be completely at peace and accepting, and that's
Mm,
nonsense. Wanting to kick the cat and get fed up is completely natural and be annoyed because you have to do something that you weren't planning on doing, didn't want to do, don't want to spend the money, don't want to find a solution, don't want to have that conversation. That's all normal. And nobody wants to do the stuff that is a pain.
sure.
But life.
Exactly. And I would say, like, when I get frustrated to that level of some constraint, that's what motivates me to go past it and say, I'm
Yeah,
not
but
going to let this get the better of me.
you're weird. It's almost like you're in control of your emotions.
Well, I feel that. I wouldn't say I'm in control. I still feel that frustration, but I
Oh, yeah, yeah.
say, I'm
But
not
that
going to
is,
let this win, essentially. I'm a competitive person. And so that's kind of where I go.
but that is control.
Mm,
I was speaking to somebody today who contacted me for my help, potential client, and they've had years and years and years of living with real frustration at themselves and not believing they can do stuff. So therefore, they're in a bad position. They're not where they should be,
hmm
not the business where it shouldn't be. And I asked them a question. I said, "How long can you have an emotion for? How long can you hold these feelings for?" And they went, "Oh, all my life." And I went, "Nope."
mm.
She went, "What?" I said, "No, about 15 seconds." She went, "Huh?" And I said, "No, you can only have an emotion for about 15 seconds. That's how it works. That's how the body works."
hmm
But when people tell you, and it feels like you've had them all your life because you keep thinking the same stuff.
Holding on to
Okay.
them.
Yeah. No.
No?
The thought or the emotion. Oh, this is a really important distinction.
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. I guess I
All
was
right.
thinking holding on to the thoughts that are related to the emotion, perhaps.
Holding on to the thoughts that create the emotions. Thinking creates. So
hmm
the naked woman standing behind you is a bit of a surprise, Todd. I don't know why there's a naked woman standing behind you. Okay. Yeah, I just said that and you went, what? And now you're
I had to
surprised.
look. I had
You
to
had
look.
to, yeah. and you know it's nonsense. Well, I hope it's nonsense. Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, geez, yeah.
But your brain went, I had to look, and now we're smiling, and the emotion just drops. You sit, and everyone's watching your face. The emotion is just, the smile's gone away in the same way. You're now thinking about it because you're thinking about what I'm saying.
15 seconds later, it passes.
Later. So the easiest way to think about this is, if you want to go faster in a car, you make a decision and you do something with your foot, and you put your foot on the throttle, and it gives more juice to the engine, and then you go faster. The moment you say, I better slow down, you have a decision, you take your foot off, and you cut the instruction to the engine to put more fuel in, so therefore it burns less, you slow down. Emotions work in exactly the same way. So people try and avoid their emotions because they're painful. But emotion only lasts about 15 seconds because it's a bunch of chemicals that burn off inside your body. They get used, and then you stop. If you keep thinking the same things, and this is when the constraints, or if we're going to give it the non-technical thing, problems turn up.
Sure. Yeah.
If you keep getting frustrated and it's another problem, and then you go, I can't do this, and you give up, then that's when you're, you and I both, you know how much I hate the word mindset. It's so cliche, but that's when thinking sabotages you. But if you go, and you get fed up and you get a bit moody and don't have a go at the kids or the wife or the husband or whatever, and you just go, right, this sucks. And then you do the entrepreneur sort of like mantra. How do I fix this? How do I solve this? How do I? And then you go into from, I'm recognizing a problem, to how do I? And this is what makes entrepreneurs different from most other people. They have a drive to say, how do I make this happen? Because that's where they, ultimately, that's where they get their satisfaction, they get their pride. So we all have constraints. I mean, the lady today, she absolutely wanted to work with me. Guess what? She hasn't got the money. Okay, that's a normal constraint, because the way she's been thinking, what she's at the moment, that's caused a problem with her money. It's caused a problem with her business.
That's the current constraint, money. Yeah.
Money. So the mental thinking created the problem, which she hasn't got the money. Now, if she didn't thinking, she won't be speaking to me. So, catch 22, that's a pain in the backside, but you still have to, well, you have a choice. You deal with it and you find a way of dealing with it, or you give up. And she's an awesome person. She has the talent, she has the skills, but she's got some stuff in her head that means she's just been getting in her own way, unfortunately, which has caused the constraint. So are you a person who creates solutions, or are you a person that sees problems, constraints, and then gives up? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you'll find a way, and that's entrepreneur mindset. And if you are someone who gives up or wants to give up, because if you give up now, you won't then fail in the future. The best way to not fail is not do anything except you're failing. So if you don't set a goal,
hidden failure. Yeah,
it's hidden failure. So you fail slowly under the illusion of being in control because you don't do anything. But deep inside you go, I'm fed up with myself. So constraints are, on the first part of it, just annoying. Nobody wants, it's like saying in the military, you can plan basically you can plan as much as you like, and the plan goes out the window because the enemy hasn't read your plan, and that's the whole point of what the enemy does. But if you're in the army or the military, the people win because they have loads of different scenarios they plan for before they go into battle, and then they adapt. So they're surprised less, but stuff still happens. Even when we might have the perfect plan, we have the secondary plan, the third plan, and something happens, you just go, where did that come from? But that's when you have to dig in and go, I am not letting my anger and frustration and fear and disappointment stop me from saying, how can I? And that's the first part.
How can I is such a powerful reframe versus like, why can't I? or, you know, you start to question like, why is this so challenging? But it's the how do we get past this? Who do we talk to? What's the perspective we need to bring in to
Yeah.
shift? What I think is interesting is like, if you take, to some people, a constraint is a huge problem. To other people, that's actually an opportunity. And how do you get that perspective shift, I think, is interesting.
I mean, this is the second part, because constraints and problems, well, almost all products come from problems. Okay. It starts with this isn't working as well as I want it to. This isn't doing what I want it to do. Now, some products are created because it gives something, I've got a goal, but usually they start with a problem.
So that's the opportunity. The seed, the very seed of the business is actually an opportunity based on a problem. Somebody saw it as a constraint.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Alex says, this is a great, I love this quote. Alex Moy, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, by Mike Tyson. That's a great quote, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, I'm not sure about this works for Mike Tyson, because when he punched you, tend to, that'd be the end of your problems, because you got
right, yeah, your problems are done then.
But sometimes when all of your well-laid plans, and what we want is, we want a plan that works the easiest. We want the plan that's the smoothest, where we don't have to do the hard stuff. We don't have to have the hard conversations, spend that money. We would love it to be easy. But ironically, we triumph and feel the best when we overcome really big problems, because that's when we really feel proud of ourselves. But no one wants to do it the hard way. But sometimes the best innovations and the most adaptive thinking, and this is when I say all entrepreneurs are innovators. Not all innovators are entrepreneurs, because you can be a very creative person and not interested in making money and starting a business. But all entrepreneurs should be naturally innovators. Oh, what can I do? How can I do this? What else can I do? Well, they like creating, they like ideas. So if you've got your entrepreneur head on, after you've had your I'm frustrated as hell head on for a while, and then you go, right, okay, enough with the frustration. Let's put my how can I head on. Sometimes the more blocks and constraints and problems you get, the more your original plan is not possible. The more you have to look at other solutions, the better. And the more innovative, and then all of a sudden an idea that you would never would have thought of, which is way better than your first one, appears.
I think that's a great point, because if we can accept the fact that like the world is problems, right? There's a lot of problems to solve, and we love those, and that helps us thrive as entrepreneurs to solve those problems. How do we just proceed through solving those problems and use that to make the solution overall better? Like that to me sounds like a great tool, rather than something that is going to hold us back. Like that is a very interesting shift to me.
Well, I do this sometimes when back in the day when we used to allow to be in a room together, when I'm up on stage and I do this, and there's a group of business people in the room, and I love it when there's a group of business people, because what they do is they never want to say no, they're not to this question. So it's a complete total setup, and I'm going to set you up, and I'm going to tell you I'm going to set you up, okay, with this. And he's looking nervous now. I'm going to tell you.
I'm ready. I'm sitting down. I'm ready.
Yeah, that's cool. And I said, so you're all the leaders of your business, and they go yes. So if you ever been in one of these places where the speaker wants you to raise your hand or say yes 2 or 3 times, with the illusion that's going to get you into the habit of saying yes, and then you're going to say yes to buying it.
Get that yes train going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do that and said, so you're all business people in charge of your business, yeah, and you're all innovators, and you're really good at thinking outside of and what's the word you had in your head?
Box.
Cool. So that's the setup. So what I say is, so you're all really good at thinking outside of and I pause and I say triangle.
That doesn't sit right when you say it like that.
When I said that to you, you shook your head and you went, huh? Because you had to go outside of the box to find out what outside the triangle is, because back in the 60s, I can't remember who it was now, invented thinking outside the box. So every time I hear someone say, I'm an innovative thinker, and especially when you get the proud business, yeah, I'm an innovative thinker, yeah. So you're all good at thinking outside of the triangle.
It all goes off the rails then.
And then they go, what? And
That's
that is
funny.
sometimes what we need to make us think outside of the triangle, because outside of the box is the box. Yeah.
Yeah, you
But
have
we
to
don't
get outside of that
realize
first.
because we're so conditioned to think in a certain way. We think outside of the box is outside of the box. It's not. All we've done is we've got, this is a box, and now we put ourselves in another one. And someone taught us back in the 1960s, and for the last 50 years, we've been proud of being out of the box thinkers. So whenever I hear people say outside the triangle, I know they've heard one of my videos or been on it, because it makes your brain go a bit weird, because your brain knows what outside of the box is.
Yep.
And that is a constraint in your thinking.
It's almost like a pattern interrupt of some kind.
If you're using that methodology and that terminology, but we don't realize we're in a box in our thinking. So answering your question is, when we get pushed by constraints, you have to.
We're levels of box deep here. This is just like Inception.
Think outside the triangle. So what you're doing is the constraints force you outside of your plan or your box. And the more radically you put it out there, the more radical you can think and come up with amazing ideas you never would have done, especially if you're bouncing ideas off other people. Yeah. Because
that's good.
It comes from, when we have two things. I'm going to tell you a story about Vegas in a minute.
Oh, good. A Vegas story from Steven. This will be good.
Yeah, and it's a weird story. So when your constraints come along, and once we've got over our frustrated head and our, I wish I didn't have to do this head, this is when we can leap forward the most. If you then say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I do. But I don't, and this is the thing. And I had someone today in a comment about, we don't like uncertainty on a post I put up. Human beings don't like uncertainty. And this is what everyone talks about, the uncertainty, the fear of the uncertainty, okay? When I say to people, well, 99% of the whole of the world is uncertain to you.
That's all it is, yeah.
Life is uncertain to you.
Yeah.
But the thing they always forget is that we also like uncertainty, because we like going on different holidays and trying new things. And
that's the variety of spice of life.
Of life. So when we're under fear, we think it's the certainty of the unknown, but actually the fun of life is shaping the unknown, exploring. So this is the mindset crap people are taught. It's only half of it. It's like we're picking the bit that we think we want, but actually, we like doing new stuff as well. Anyway, so when you've been knocked out of your box and off your pathway so much, this is when really amazing ideas happen. If you keep your entrepreneur head on. If you've got your frustrated, fed up and demoralized head on, you'll give up. Somebody else will beat you to it.
That's good. I'm curious if anybody has any current constraints, if anybody wants to share them, because it would be interesting to see that in the comments. If somebody has like a current constraint, they're facing a problem, I would love to see that, because it could be somebody else might be able to comment on there, turning that box into a triangle. Like what you said there makes me think about perspective, and it's about how you're able to see beyond what you're currently seeing. And that to me was the biggest thing. It's like you think you're seeing a box, but it's not a box.
What's that? Here's the thing though, it's not even a triangle.
What is it?
What's outside the triangle? Whatever the hell you want to put in there. Anything. Yeah.
You said something earlier that I wrote down. I hope people are taking notes here too, because you've said a lot of things here. Constraints force you outside that box. I thought that was interesting. So that really pushes you to the innovation. And that is actually a tool then. That constraint is what's going to allow you to create something that is bigger than what you imagined and better.
or just plain different.
Different.
Yeah.
That's good.
So constraints are painful. And this is the thing, when you learn the lesson, then, lesson's the greatest teacher. Lessons suck. Criticism sucks. Failure sucks.
Not fun. Yeah.
Anybody who says to you that I embrace failure, I've just put £100,000 into my marketing campaign and it failed, they don't like it. And anybody who says that they just, it doesn't matter, well, they're a multi-billionaire, okay? Then they don't care. But any reasonable person will not like it, and it's okay not to like it, but just don't not like it forever, and don't not like it for, don't let it stop you. Yeah, get your entrepreneur head.
That's where you start thinking of, how do I, don't revel in it, don't stay there. Okay, if we understand we need to keep it moving, right, we need to move past that, what is the best way to do that, do you think? Like, is it talking to people? Is it like, what is the best way to get that perspective?
The new ideas. And why did this problem happen? And it may be just that a member of your staff just went sick, or their relatives went sick. So in your plan, you hired somebody to do this, and they weren't there. Done. So you've just learnt a lesson for leadership and management that this is, I think this is comes from the technology world. It's a single point of failure.
Yep.
Yeah. You got the single point of failure. It's one thing.
It's our worst nightmare.
Worst nightmare. So when you're leading and managing a business, you just learn, in the future, I'm going to cut down as many single points of failures. You just learn a massive management lesson. But how you obviously deal with that, but who else could you go to? What else do they know? How would you? And it is just simply, I think the most important thing is moving from being frustrated back into being the real entrepreneur.
That problem-solving mode that we get our mojo from.
Yeah. So I spend a lot of time with people because they get stuck. The first thing I do is when they're stuck in the not allowing themselves to move forward. That's my speciality, because they're so stuck in their thinking. They're so fearful of failure or criticism or judgment. I had a guy yesterday who capped himself at earning £100,000 a year, because any more than that, he's going to get criticised by his family for earning too much.
Now, man.
Yeah,
that's a tough belief to hold on to. Yeah.
Yeah, well, especially he's a marketer. He's a really good marketing guy. He has thousands of clients, but he just charges.
So the potential there is very high, much more than £100,000.
He's undercharging. Okay, but he deliberately kept his prices low, so he wouldn't be criticised, because he grew up in a very working class environment. So all this stuff is usually nonsense, but painful nonsense.
And that's very, very real for them.
An entrepreneur in a problem-solving mode. But remember, you can be frustrated in a problem-solving mode. Then you'd be inspired by the idea you've had. So you can get enthusiastic. So use all the emotion to drive you, whether it's frustrated or I've had an idea, and you get excited. Both of those work. Yeah,
no, that it's another tool that can be used. And another thing that's coming to mind as you're talking here is like, eye of the beholder. Is like, is it a problem or is it an opportunity? It almost comes down to how you're just looking at it in that moment. What does Alex have here?
So, in eye of the beholder, someone will see everyone used to quote Richard Branson as being the entrepreneur, especially in the UK, but everyone quotes Elon Musk now. Okay. But Elon Musk sets crazy, stupid goals.
Yeah.
Guess what? Well, he sent his old car into space. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, he's obviously very talented, but he's actually very determined. And he's very creative, sets high standards. And guess what?
Things get done.
He's beating NASA at their own game.
Yeah.
So it's actually saying, you know, I want this. And this is where the sabotage thinking, as I call it, gets in the way of the I want this. And entrepreneurs need to say, I want this. I want to make this happen. I want to do this. And I will make it happen. And I will find ways of doing it. Because remember, Elon, he just blew up a few rockets, X million.
Yeah.
And he went through hell. And I don't necessarily have to be as extreme as him in terms of how much of a risk he took. But that's why what the richest guy on the planet at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to go as risky as him. There's ways of actually, you know, I'm not going to risk my family's house and my kid's house. You don't have to do that.
No,
It's
there's
like,
so much middle ground.
yeah. Someone actually put a post up in the group and they said, I'm a night bird, really, but you know, how do I get myself to get up at 5 a.m? And I just said, if you're a night owl, be a night owl. Don't try and force yourself to do it. Don't think you have to do it the same as everybody else, but find your way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that belief in yourself and not letting this get in the way, which means you just get on with it.
Alex says here, you know, it sounds like the need for boldness and courageousness. You know, when you're having those doubts, those are some things that you need to hold, perhaps.
I would say yes, definitely boldness and courageousness, because you're an entrepreneur, but you need to be less courageous when you are not doubting yourself so much. This is why people often say you need to really know your why and build up the motivation, and that's often to overcome your doubts and fears. If you've got excessive doubts and fears, turn those off first and then just get on with being bold and courageous. But if you're having to overcome yourself a lot, you're battling with yourself rather than focusing your energy on solving the problem. Solve this as a problem first. This is a constraint. Solve it. Get it out of the way. That's why I always start with my clients, for that reason. Then they can just, right, now what do I want to do? How am I going to do it? And they focus on getting the job done rather than arguing.
Once that other stuff's out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joshua Humphreys has an interesting comment here. I didn't know this specifically, but the Netflix co-founder, he actually started Netflix without any industry knowledge, specifically so he could come in and think outside. Now, Joshua says box here, but we just spoke about how it's thinking outside of the triangle.
Yeah.
So Joshua, thank you for that anecdote. I didn't know that. That's an interesting bit. So it's like he's actually saying, like, I love the fact that I don't know anything about this, all these constraints, and I'm going to use that to my advantage.
My stepson, I spoke to him about being an engineer because he's a bit of a techie. Yeah. And I talked to him, do you know what an engineer is? And this is when he was about 12 or 13. And no. And I said, this is what engineers do. And there's loads of different forms of engineers, loads of different stuff. And he went away and researched it on his computer. And he said, can I go to this school? And there's a technical school for engineers and computers and all sorts of, but that's their speciality. So he gets himself on a bus every day and, goes to the school. He left his old school, just went, I'm going. I said,
wow.
Go.
Left his friends, left the teacher.
Friends,
Wow.
And everything. And because it's not about being that bold and courageous, it's because he wants something. He's also gives us a report on how he's doing on Bitcoin. He's 16 at the moment. He says he was up $300 yesterday, he's down $200 today. But because
amazing,
it's what he wants. He wants to be in control of his own life. He's very entrepreneurial, more entrepreneurial than the other three of my stepsons. So I talk to him a lot, and I talk to him about all sorts of different things about entrepreneurism. But his basis is in his expertise. He's still at school. He's only 16.
It's amazing.
But the thing is, what he's learning is about how to think about being an entrepreneur.
What a skill at that age to have. Like, most kids are not getting that at that age.
Yeah. The other three, forget it. Now, they're all good in their own way, doing different things.
Sure.
But what an entrepreneur does is they look at a problem differently from everybody else does. That is a skill. And the drive to want to solve the problem is what makes entrepreneurs achieve more than most other people.
Yeah, that's so true. Man, that is good stuff. So we are almost at time here, I think. I just wanted to circle back and kind of touch on like the biggest takeaways here for me For anybody that maybe joined a little bit later,
What, my Vegas
uh,
story?
oh, we still need to do the Vegas story. We have to end with that. Please tell us what happened in Vegas. I know it's supposed to stay in Vegas. I'm not in Vegas right now, but maybe you can tell us.
Biggest takeaways as well. Come on, let's do some stuff where we help people earn money and get their product stuff.
I'll start with Vegas. I need to hear that because now I'm on the edge of my seat, literally on the edge of my seat here. What happened in Vegas?
Right. I was in Vegas with my wife, and she was a bit tired. We just stopped there for 3 days because we were off going to the tour of the canyons, and we were driving around Bryce and Zion, and we just were going around, you know. But we were in Vegas, and Vegas is, to me, is the place where you've got to go once, at least once, just to go, I can't believe they did this. That's why.
Can't believe this is real. Yeah.
Yeah. But I, at the time, was craving something real. Literally, I wanted something real. So I think it was in the Venetian. I think it was the Venetian, yeah. There was 2 museums. There was a motorbike museum and a history of art. Okay, and if you might gather, I quite like my art. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to have a look at this history of art. And what they had around this room was, and this is the creativity thing I was talking about. It's like you need to spark off other people to help your creativity. It's great to have ideas. Constraints can make you be creative, but then you have somebody else with a different point of view. And this is where masterminds like this are really useful when you get involved and ask questions. If you're prepared to bounce ideas around, 2 + 2 = 73. Who knows what it equals? Okay. But the interesting thing was they had a minor piece of art going back to the about 1500s, and then there was another one, and there was another one, there was another one, and in a lot of cases, even though they were by different artists in different periods, but you know, just progression, you could see the progression of where the artist from 50 years in the future had seen the past and gone, but I want to make it like this.
You could see them inspired by the greats of the past, but then taking it further than they did.
And then you could see the jumps, and it's like, whoa. And it was really good just to walk around this room with all these pieces of art, and it was good. But that wasn't the Vegas story, because that's not a Vegas story.
That's not very Vegas. No,
that's not very Vegas. This is what makes it Vegas. As I'm walking around looking at this, at the corner of my eye, I'm spotting something that's a bit weird. And there's some really sort of like tall guys in cap sleeve t-shirts and tight jeans, and ladies with makeup and blonde and miniskirt. I'm looking around going, what's going on? And I'm walking around, and all these people are looking around, looking at the art. And then, you know, there's a guy on the back, and it said Stud TV. It was the porn convention. So I'm in
at the art museum,
in the porn convention, and there was these porn stars also.
Very Vegas.
That's so Vegas. So the thing is, you don't know who you know that if you run your problem, your constraint through, because you look at porn stars, and there's someone who understands or thinks about art, and you do not know what they will connect for you. You will not know what they can inspire you. Well, porn stars, what they inspire you will. Yeah. But when you allow yourself to have your "how do I" brain on, when the problems turn up, that's when, you know, I see it in my clients all the time. Once we get them out of the way and then stop them getting stressy about, you know, life and problems and things that happen to them and not believing in themselves and all that sort of stuff that gets in the way, costs people millions. When you get that out of the way and you allow your "how can I" brain to run, you don't know yet what you can create. And the constraints can help you. They'll suck, you'll hate it, but boy, can they help you.
That's a great way to loop it back to what we were talking about earlier. I like how you just went from Vegas porn stars now back to how constraints are valuable, and how constraints can actually force us to focus. And we all know how valuable focus is and how that can actually help us succeed. So how we can use constraints to actually be a tool to be more creative. But I think the missing piece there is, how can you invite like the sparks from other people and that creativity from other perspectives to help you get that creativity to get around the constraint and to really solve that problem.
I always find, and I say that this is about level of management as well. So you use this in management, and use this in creativity. Most people want, well, if you've got a problem with your sabotage thinking, you don't want to be wrong, okay? If you want to be good at something, you want to be right. Human beings like to be right. I'm right, I feel good about myself. This is the, and this is when sometimes you get people who will argue that black is white and white is black. And they'll argue they're right, even though they know they're wrong. You know they're wrong, and then 5 minutes later they say, I know you were right, but I just had to. So if you want to be right more often, take advice from people who have good ideas. And when they have a good idea, let go of your idea or combine it with their idea or whatever else. So you're right more often by allowing yourself to be wrong.
That's cool. I like that. Be right more often by allowing yourself to be wrong.
Or the simple way of putting this, what would you like? Your ego to feel temporarily good, or loads of money in the bank? Which actually makes you feel quite good.
Absolutely. Well. Absolutely. That's good.
And human beings, what they tend to do is they try and defend how they're feeling, blaming other people, being angry, being fearful of what could go wrong, so they hold back. They worry about what they could lose, so they try and control those feelings. That's how people sabotage themselves. That's why you get that crap out of your head. So therefore, you can get a real result, which you get to feel good about.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, well, on the topic of constraints, I'm just calling it. This is the constraint on time today. We're done for today, but I really like this topic. I think about constraints all the time, and I think we all see them all the time. So it's how can we flip that around and take advantage of them? So thanks everybody tuning in. Let's see how we can keep turning these constraints into opportunities. Stephen, thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll do it again next week. We do this every week. These only get better and better. We've got this beautiful constraint on how we do the live with the interaction, and
it would be so cool if I'd actually been in Nashville. That would have been so cool, because I was meant to be there, but hey,
I didn't even think about that. We could have been sitting next to each other, but we do these every quarter. So next quarter will be it. So thanks, Stephen. We will talk again soon.
Put some comments in. What do you think? Was it useful? Questions? What do you want from us?
Absolutely. Drop a constraint in there, a problem. Somebody might have a solution. Great way to get some creativity. Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll talk to you all later. See you, Stephen.